Hello and welcome to PocketGamer.biz's weekly news roundup. This is for the week ending the 16th of January 2015. Happy New Year. I'm John Jordan. So it's been a pretty big week for Pocket Gamer. So we kicked off the week with our Pocket Gamer Connect London conference that was on the 13th and 14th of January. So lots of preparation for that. Congratulations to everyone who's involved in that, which was not really me, but I did some panel talks and stuff. But we had a really good time. We had about over 1,100 people turning up to London. We had something ridiculous like 160 speakers, 85 talks, panel talks and speaker talks, and we had a very big indie pitch. I think 70 indie developers came up and pitched. We had investors looking at some Finnish developers. We had some education talks. We had the big indie survival panel that was very good. We had our main East meets West panel, which looks also some of the biggest publishers in the world. So people like Chinese publisher Perfect World, from Kabam from the US. King Games, we all know them. Kind of giving very quick, kind of 15-minute presentations. We call it kind of all the juice and none of the filler. So lots of kind of interesting things coming from that. We'll do our kind of roundup of news from the conference. But amazingly, news continued elsewhere in the world as well. So it's kind of been a start of the year, so kind of maybe a bit quieter than usual. But I guess kind of we can put together kind of three games that announce them. Monetization figures or some kind of some milestones really. First one is Minecraft. So everyone knows Minecraft. Everyone knows Microsoft spent $2.5 billion on Mojang to buy them. But they announced this week, as everyone seems to do on Twitter, that the mobile version of Minecraft has now sold 30 million units or 30 million downloads, I guess. It's kind of difficult with Minecraft. Minecraft is the paid game that keeps on giving. It's just this kind of crazy phenomenon. It's I guess as we'll talk later on in the video. It's sometimes when you're looking at paid games, it's kind of best to go the paid games market minus Minecraft, because Minecraft is just its own thing. You can't very hard to draw any conclusions about how you doing a paid game in that market, how that would operate by using Minecraft as an example, because it just is its own thing. It's still very impressive to have 30 million downloads of a game. I mean, goodness knows how many pirated versions there are. Obviously, it's hard to pirate because you have to connect to a server. But kind of, I guess, congratulations to those guys for taking a PC game, and I think it's now pretty much sold more on mobile than kind of a PC and other platforms, which I guess goes to show that mobile is a very strong platform for paid games when there is a way of stopping piracy. And I guess I'm kind of drawing comparisons from Minecraft, which I just said you shouldn't do. Anyway, so moving on, going to free to play. So a game that kind of came out in December 2014, kind of I guess gained a lot of attention for its art style. Crossy Road, which is an endless version of Frogger. So I guess maybe not everyone has played Frogger, but Frogger is one of the oldest video games out there. And not particularly kind of, I guess, from the early days of the arcade games, those games were not particularly focused on gameplay. They were very, you're going to lose, put some more money into the arcade machine. But Frogger has kind of been remade in this kind of wonderful kind of pixel art style by the Australian developer Hipster Whale. And I think it was one of these games. It was a bit of a kind of Flappy Bird. It kind of came out just on iOS, just come out on Google Play now. But it kind of just, people liked it. People kind of understood the idea of Frogger. Some quite nice artwork and some quite kind of interesting how it's the angle at which you kind of play is slightly different, and just with a lot of those endless games, once they kind of gain a kind of an audience and everyone's kind of looking for that new high score, and there's a slight bragging rights thing, and it's fairly hard. It's not quite as hard as Flappy Bird. No game's as hard as Flappy Bird, I guess. But and just a game that kind of did well and didn't really, in terms of in-app purchases, didn't really has in-app purchases, but not really in a heavy-duty manner. It's more kind of, I guess, in a, you could say, in a MOBA type way. You're kind of unlocking new characters, so more a kind of a stylistic type thing. But they announced, or maybe Unity ads announced for them, that they'd integrated Unity video ads, and they'd generated $1 million just from integrating video ads. And actually, at the conference, one of the tracks that I was involved with was had quite a lot of involvement from video ad companies. So there's Bungle is one, and Play Connolly is another one, and these various kind of companies where video advertising in general, mobile advertising has I think always had a kind of very bad rap, partly because banners were so awful. So you integrate banners into your game, people didn't like them because they click on them by mistake, the whole fat finger syndrome. They just weren't very good at advertising, as an advertising kind of a model, as a format, not very good. So a lot of people moved away from banners, even though banners, just by kind of just the amount of inventory with banners, it's still more than anything else. But a lot of the key kind of advertising networks have moved away from banners and gone to this kind of idea of native ads or interstitial ads, where you're kind of popping up over a full screen, or having a much more kind of smooth process. But video ads is basically the thing that came in 2014 and basically kind of just wiped the floor. Obviously, video ads, they're video, so there are some bandwidth requirements, but what you can charge, what the kind of advertisers will pay for a video ad, and what obviously developers and then networks can kind of gain from that is much more lucrative. And particularly when they're added to kind of what we call incentivized ads, so basically you kind of win some in-game currency, or your game's come to an end in, say, end this run, and you say, do you want to continue, watch this video ad, and then you can continue your high score. That kind of works in a kind of seamless psychological manner with the player. So generally advertising has often been kind of right in your face, and you didn't really want it, but you didn't want to pay for it to go away, so that model didn't work. But well integrated video advertising just seems to be kind of click the buttons. It's kind of the whole sweet spot win-win kind of thing going on there. And actually, there was one of the talks was actually looking at games that actually do integrate video advertising very well, and Rovio is an example. They kind of seen as doing that very well. But Crossy Road has obviously hit a sweet spot as well. Say they use Unity ads, so Unity was obviously keen to say that games that weren't necessarily heavily monetized in terms of in-app purchases could generate large sums of money. $1 million in anyone's book is fairly good, and when you're a two-man indie team, you're kind of happy with that. And that kind of brings us on to the kind of final kind of game that was throwing out figures, and it was our friends over at Us2, the London developer of Monument Valley. So Monument Valley has kind of been this kind of singular success for paid games. It's obviously beautifully developed, and then it kind of had this kind of a controversy around its in-app purchase, which was basically like a downloadable content, the Forgotten Shores kind of pack that gave you a whole bunch of more levels that some people didn't feel they should have been paying for. But anyway, so Us2 kind of, fairly unprecedented really in terms of the information they gave out. So they announced some pretty hard figures. So let me just check that I know what these hard figures are, because that'd be embarrassing to get the hard figures wrong. So there's been 2.4 million sales of the game, which in terms of obviously download free-to-play games is not very much at all, but in terms of sales, that's not bad. So 1.7 million of those have been on iOS. Again, that's no big surprise. It came out first on iOS, and iOS has kind of been its lead platform all the time, and we all know that kind of iOS has an audience that will pay more, an audience that will be kind of economically kind of stronger than other platforms in most territories, and that's so the down. So that's 82% of it, all its sales have come from iOS. And interestingly, they did also break out Amazon. So they did the deal with Amazon, where Amazon gave away almost kind of 500,000, 400,000 copies as part of kind of Amazon promoting its kind of Christmas promotion. So in terms of the Forgotten Shores download pack, a third of iOS users went on to buy that. But what was kind of interesting was they kind of broke out some figures. Kind of hard to tell how accurate these are, but they broke out some production cost figures. So let me find this one. So the Monument Valley itself, the main game, there was an 8-man team roughly. Took them 55 weeks to make. So that's an enormous amount of time really for a mobile game, over a year to make. So they're kind of accounting for that at $850,000. While the Forgotten Shores took a further 29 weeks to make, and that's at a cost of $549,000. So total development costs were $1.4 million. So in terms of the money that was actually the net money that came to Us2 was, let me find that one. It was $5.8 million. So if you do all the maths, you end up with a profit of $4.5 million. So in some ways, I think this kind of cuts across. It's kind of like a real glass half full, half empty kind of question for the industry. So in some ways, these people made a game. It was one of Apple's games of the year. It was many commentators' games of the year. I think everyone who pays the $4 for it and plays it, you don't really have any complaints. It's a beautifully kind of created kind of art kind of game. Some of the style won't kind of be attracted to certain types of audience, but anyway, so you have a game that the company has made $4.5 million on. So is that a lot of money? Well, clearly, most people, as I say, when financial kind of figures start getting into the millions, even with an 8-man team, that kind of works out fairly well. But what would be interesting is, given the level of publicity, given the kind of push it's had from companies like Apple and Amazon, would you have expected Monument Valley to have done much more than that? Clearly, in the free-to-play world, the games that are doing very successfully there, that are top grossing, are making potentially $500,000 a day, or some of them are clearly making more than $1 million a day. So that's the upper level. And obviously the people who kind of don't like paid games, or don't like the paid game model, or says it's not a very useful model, say that the problem with something like Monument Valley is you pay the $4 to buy the game, you then pay the additional $2 to buy the in-app purchase. So that and that is the most you can pay. If you're a massive fan of the game, you can complete it and then you're stuck. Whereas in a free-to-play game, obviously you can pay as much as you like. Obviously, very different styles of gameplay. There is no correct answer. It is a glass half full, half empty. So either in some ways Monument Valley is a massive success. It shows how paid games can survive, and particularly I guess it's got a lot of love from Apple. Apple is pushing the paid game kind of model harder than the free-to-play one. But for the free-to-play game guys, Monument Valley is an example of how massive success is capped in the paid market, because you just can't extract those. For those guys who want to pay, or girls, who want to pay hundreds and thousands of dollars to get further on in that game, this does not, this game does not provide that in terms of the financial model or in terms of the gameplay model. So there you have. We start the year with a quandary. Is Monument Valley a massive success, or an example of the paid cap that you have on games where you can't have lots of in-app purchases? There we go. Maybe something to be answered later on in the year.